Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be talking about TradeFinder, which is a module in OptionVue. I'm James Hogan, your product consultant here. I'm going to have the chat window open, so any questions, go ahead and stop me during the presentation. I don't have a problem stopping and explaining something a little bit further if you'd like. So I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop with you so that you can look at my OptionVue. Okay, so you should be looking at my OptionVue now. I'll pull my chat box up here. Okay, so this is where we start. We start out with the quotes display here. And you can always have this set up however you want to. It's kind of important if you're going to be doing a TradeFinder, and this is the TradeFinder button up here. These are actually our scanning tools. We have TradeFinder, Survey, and OpScan. TradeFinder is going to be excellent if you have a specific target in mind for an underline or a group of underlines. Be it even if it's looking for a bell curve, you're thinking this underline is just going to stay where it's at and not move around too much, or if you have a target as far as an underlying price and time range as well. An important thing to remember before you even start doing a trade find analysis is you're going to want to make sure you have an open matrix before you do this. So let's take a look at an underline and see what kind of underline we want to look at here. Let's look at one of the indexes actually to start off with. We'll go ahead and go into, let's go into SPY. So basically I'm going to go ahead and double click on this. It's going to open up an options chain for me. Now TradeFinder is only going to be able to look at the options that you have defined in an options chain matrix here in OptionVue. So I have and you can always adjust this by going to define, and I have my strike ranges set to large. Okay, I'm looking at weeklies. I'm not looking at quarterlies or leaps, but if you wanted to, you would have those here. And if you wanted more months out, if you were looking at a longer period of time for a particular trade, maybe you'd want to actually adjust this to 8 or 9 months out. Because OptionVue, again, when you look at TradeFinder, it's only going to look at the options that you have defined here. Okay, if I have an auto strike enabled here, and what that means is that every day you open up OptionVue, option chain, OptionVue is looking at where the at-the-money is, and then it decides upon a range up below the at-the-money, so the in-the-monies and the out-of-monies, and both the puts and the calls, and every day it resets that. So if you have a particular strike range and you actively trade a certain underline, you may decide to uncheck auto strike, and if you do that, it's going to save all the strikes you have in here now, and then you can click on this options tab and you can actually go down to the first blank field here, and they don't have to be in any particular order, but you can go ahead and start entering. And I'm just going to put an example here. I just hit it in 191. I'm going to hit the down arrow. I'm going to hit 192, hit the down arrow, and then you could even go the other way if you wanted to. Say I wanted to have a 120 strike in there. So they don't have to be in any particular order. Just, hit after the strike in, hit the down arrow, and it'll automatically populate this call symbol, put symbol, and multiplier here. So just so you know, so if you did come in and you wanted to do, maybe you were selling naked way out of the money, and there weren't enough strikes available for you that you want to go way out there and sell, and you want OptionVue to find some TradeFinder to find some good trades for you. As far as doing that, you might have to come in here and add some extra strikes, uncheck auto strike if you want to make sure you keep those strikes when you come in the next day. This is where you're going to do it. And again, this is under the define button here. Auto strike would have to be disabled if you wanted to keep the strikes you were adding in here. Okay, so this is a really key part that a lot of people will have questions about when they first start running TradeFinder, because the default settings is you have more of a small range defaulted, especially if you're just starting out with OptionVue. So you're going to have to customize this to how you like it. Some people really only trade at the money or around there, things like that. But if you change everything to large and then uncheck auto strike and add some more strikes, you will be able to get the amount of out of the money options, way out of the money if you're looking for that. So we're going to go ahead and go into TradeFinder now because I have an options chain open. So now basically what OptionVue has done is it's pulling in data. It has fresh data in here now. So now I can click on TradeFinder. And you're always going to want to start with this Assets tab here. Okay, basically this is pretty much the section you're going to want to focus on down here, selected assets. Okay, by clicking on this number 1 button here, actually it's the second button over, but this button here is going to bring in whatever underline you have highlighted in the quotes display currently, and I'll show you that real quick here. And I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. And you can see I'm highlighting the SPY. Now, if I go to TradeFinder and I click on this third button over, which is actually, it says G, which means group, okay, what I have going on here is I have a group set up. Let me get up to the top here. Okay, so this is my indices group, not that they're all indices, but this is the group that I have titled indices. Okay, and this would be another group here with just 1 in it. Here's another one. So each of these little titles here represents the title of a group, and if I was in TradeFinder and I clicked on that G button, it's going to pull in everything that I have in this group here. Okay, now the key thing to know is that I did not open up an options chain for all of these underlines today, which means that OptionVue currently doesn't have the option data needed to run a scan on all of these. What you would do if you wanted to run a group, and I'll do that a little later, but if you want to do this since we're on the subject, is you would actually go up to NetView at the top here next to Help, and you would go Update Asset Files. Okay, and then it's very similar to this window here, is I would click on the same G button, so that pulls in all of these, and then I would hit Go. And essentially what this is doing is behind the scenes, it's opening up and requesting an option chain data for all of these underlines. And it would go through each one of them, and there would be a little time box that will pop up while it does that. It probably might take about 30 seconds to a minute to go ahead and pull in all that data, and then it'll say complete, and then you're good to go. Then you can close that, and you will then know that all of these have been updated. Okay, those are some very key starting points when you're getting ready to run a TradeFinder. You want to make sure you have an option chain that is well defined as far as the strikes that you want, and also that you have gone either behind the scenes or opened independently each of the matrices in order to pull in data. I got a couple questions up here. You won't know, one of the questions is, how can you tell which symbols have weekly options? That's something, we don't have a particular list per se that will let you know what has weeklies, but if you go into View, under View is where the default settings are up here. I go to Default Auto Strike. If you click on this lower box down here that says includes weeklies if available, it's going to populate your option chain whenever you open up a matrix. By double-clicking on the underline here. And if it has weeklies, they will be there for you. Okay, if it doesn't have weeklies, they're not going to be populated. But as far as a list, you might want to go to CBOE to check that out. There you go. Thanks. Jim Graham actually just put the link to see where all the weeklies are, CBOE. So that's how you would do that. As far as a group, this is how you create a group. What you do is, and you can hit the insert on your keyboard. I'm going to go down here actually. Insert gives you a blank field. So I'm going to hit the insert button on my keyboard. Another way to do that is to go to Edit and Insert Row. Okay, that's another way. It does the same thing. There's usually a couple ways to do the same thing in OptionVue. So what you would do is then # is the way you kind of define that this is going to be a new group, and you would put your title here, hit Enter, and now I have a new group. Okay, these green boxes basically mean that live quotes are coming into each of these groups. I can actually suspend the quotes on a group if I want to. Okay, so now these prices and quotes are frozen here, and any option chain I have behind the scenes that's running is going to be frozen as well. One of the reasons for being that is if you're doing some analysis, for instance, a TradeFinder scan, it's often good to kind of suspend your quotes, especially if you're doing something on a large group, because the amount of calculations that TradeFinder has to do and the searching that it's doing while it's taking in live quotes on perhaps a large options chain at a time, it's going to kind of slow down the system and things like that. So that's one of the reasons you might want to suspend it. But if you ever are in here and you see that your quotes aren't streaming in, chances are this might be yellow instead of green. So now I just turned them on again. This A up here will alphabetize your list for you. So that's how you create a group. If you don't want that group, you can highlight this again. I'm going to hit the delete key, and it's gone. Now it's back to my original group. So that's how you create a group. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on TradeFinder again, and basically, it's going to ask you after you've decided upon the group that you want to run a TradeFinder on. Okay, you would then go to targets. Okay, as far as targets go, you're going to see this window pop up. These are all the symbols that are over here in my group. And now you can't simply fill out a price here because it's not going to apply to everything that's in a group here. This would be good if you're just looking at the ES. Okay, a better way to do this is to go over here to this button to the left with 3 buttons on it. Okay, now we're setting all the targets. So if you had an idea that within this date or date range, we could do a date range, or we can do a price range as well. And what we're looking at is percentages here. So you could say that the low price is going to be 5% where it's at right now. Okay, and that's what we're doing. We're looking at percentages. +5. Let's say we're going to do -5 and +5. So I just type it in a -5 here, and I'm hitting enter. Okay, near date, you can put in whatever date you want to. A good kind of idea to keep in mind is if you're doing far dates, or even if you're doing a specific date in particular, putting an X always means you're looking at an expiration. So if I did X3, it's going to look at the third expiration out there, the third month out that's going to for that expiration. Now the thing to watch out for is if you put expiration dates in, is that if you're looking at butterflies or condors or anything like that, expiration lines look a lot better than they would as far as the other T+ lines, the lower time lines. And I'll show you that in a second. But so basically, it's looking at expiration. If you have a specific target and it falls right on the expiration of a butterfly at the peak, it's going to give you, very unrealistic returns because you would have definitely got out of this butterfly way before, the peak of that trade. And I'll show you what I mean here in a moment. You can also, so you might want to actually, you'd put it, maybe 10 days before expiration on this. So maybe you'd put in September 10th instead. As far as volatility changes, if you expect a drop or an increase in volatility by this TradeFinder target, okay, if you think volatility is going to be up or down 10% across the board for all the underlines, this is where you would do it here. OptionVue does a pretty good job of the modeling of volatility here, so be careful with adjusting the implied volatility, but it's just another parameter you can adjust there. Okay, so this, if I hit OK here, what this is now going to do is it's going to go through each of these lists, and you'll see it scroll through each of these lists, which it did already, and it pulled in this information for me. It pulled in the low, so it basically subtracted 5% and added 5% for the high and the low. Okay, you can see it did that. Okay, so that's one way to set up your targets here. I'm actually going to do a scan here. We're going to do an SPY scan. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to click on the 1, and now I'm highlighted on XIV. I don't want to be on that. I want to be on SPY. Okay, so I'm going to go here, hit my number 1 there. And so now I've got my SPY here. And now, as far as my targets go, let's just say I have a price target. Let's say, we're in a bullish mode here, and we think by, I'm going to change this to August actually. And let's say I have a price, and by August 15th, I think we're going to be at, I don't know, 167 on the SPY. Okay. Now, strategies. This is the bullish strategies. Long and bullish strategies are on the left here. Okay. The shorts over here are generally your bearish strategies. Okay. Your long strategies are your short strategies. So what we're going to do, I want to select. Let's just look at a few different things here. We'll look long the option. We'll look. Actually, we're not going to do that one. We're going to do debits, horizontals. We'll do some straddles, some strangles, butterflies. Okay, and So basically, by doing this, we also want to use both puts and calls. I want to look at that. If you just wanted to look at things with only calls or only puts, you could select that here. You could always select all. Okay, if you want leaps, you would check this here. Okay, so I've done already. So basically, kind of going back again, I got my asset, what I'm wanting to do my scan on, what my target is, what strategies I want to look at. My goal now is TradeFinder is going to try to maximize the capital that you provide in here. So if you put 2,000, it's going to try to use every penny of that 2,000. Okay. TradeFinder will also help you potentially look at an adjustment or look at adding another position on or some different legs. If your target changes based on a trade that you already have on, you can use TradeFinder to give you some ideas on what to do with an existing position. Okay, we don't have one on now, so that doesn't apply. And if we're doing strangles and straddles, you can do call put ratios 1-to-1 or delta neutral. Okay. Now my filters here, this is where you can get really specific in what you want TradeFinder to find. If you want to have a minimum amount of days left in the option for both buying and selling, okay, and a maximum day. Okay, so this is going to, kind of eliminate, even though you have a matrix defined, by putting some of these option qualifiers in here, you're actually going to eliminate some of the candidates that might be out there. If you have some of your own parameters as far as price to buy and sell on legs of a butterfly or condor or straddle or strangle, and same with the time frames. Okay, and then you can have, if this is probably more for calendars. Okay, if you're doing minimum days between legs 1 and 2, you can even decide upon, I don't want the bid-ask gap to be larger than this. I want to make sure I have tight spreads between the bid and the ask, and this is going to help you do that. Okay, some other key factors to have in here, and probably more important than a lot of these, are perhaps the volume and the open interest. Okay, I will always run a scan with at least one in one of these two parameters here, because TradeFinder is going to go out and there might be a bid and ask out there, but absolutely no volume or open interest currently. And if you're really realistically probably not going to get a good fill, or you wouldn't even trade something like that because you would have a difficult time getting out of it. So it's always good to have something in here, because otherwise TradeFinder is going to find results for you that may look outstanding but are really impractical. Okay. So once I have all of these things set up here, I can then come over here and what do I actually want to look for? I want to look for my expected return, okay, my worst case return, a best case return, the best probability of profit for the trade that I'm looking to do based on the target I set. This is a ratio of the best case return versus worst case return, and then a ratio of the expected return versus the worst case return. Okay, let's take a look at a best case return here, and we'll go ahead and hit go on this one. And you can see I'm going to maximize this. It's searching through all the strategies that I selected right now. It's going through vertical debits, and you can see right up here that it's working on it, and it's looking at my one asset. I'm only doing one asset right now. Now it's looking at horizontals. And so basically it's going through my entire SPY option matrix that I opened up, and it's looking for these trades based on the best case return. It's going through each strategy on its own. Now the reason I hesitate to do a large group and why I would suspend the quotes if I did that is, you can see we're just looking at one underline. We're just looking at the SPY. I mean, if we were looking at the SPX, the OEX, the Russell, for something similar to what we're doing just with the SPY here, you can see it's going to take a little while for OptionVue to do those calculations for you. So we're almost there. There we go. So my best case return is giving me a $5,000 return based on, again, like I said, we're using $3,000 under my goals tab here. Okay. But again, once we're looking at best case returns, we're not ranking them on probability of profit. And I'm going to highlight this right now for you. And it's looking at a butterfly. Okay, I have a feeling we're going to be towards the peak of the butterfly on this one. You can, I just left clicked on this. Okay, so I can left click on this one. It's looking at legs. We're looking at a 53 August 65. So this is in the calls. Okay, but I can quickly click on this button here and analyze it, and it's showing me what we're looking at. And so, of course, I was right. We're looking at this butterfly line, which has got to be close to expiration here. The solid line is representing my target date. Okay, this black line is the target that I set up. Okay, this is why it's given us such a great return up here. Okay. This is being recorded. I have a question from Rocky there. Yeah, so you'll be able to see this later, Rocky. So that is why you're getting such a high return there. Okay. Let's look at these now based on probability of profit. Okay. Things change a little bit here. Now my probability of profit is 75, and my return is going to be 128. Not the best return. But let's take a look at why it's giving us this probability of profit. Okay, there's my target. Okay, I'm going to click on expiration, which is what this TradeFinder is looking at. Not expiration, sorry, but my target date. Okay, that's my max target date there. And so I'm looking at this here. I have this highlighted. So now the Greeks and my returns are all represented by down here because we're looking at this timeline right here. Okay, and you can always see that down here in the analysis part of it, that it's highlighted. There's a little asterisk there. Okay, so now the reason that this is giving us such a high probability of profit is, as I'm highlighted on this line, you can see the standard deviations down here. Okay, this reddish pink purple color here, it represents the first standard deviation, and the blue aqua color down the bottom is the second standard deviation. And as you can see where my target is, okay, that this trade is profitable, you know, or basically engulfs this these standard deviations, you know, roughly 75% of the time. Is that what it said? Yep, 75%. So, you know, let me go back to my analyze that trade again. So basically, that's what it's saying. By clicking on this line right here, that's saying that 75% of the time, this is covered by the standard deviations. Now, you can see over here that says probability of profit is 100%. Well, what's 100% is my target. This is my target result. This black line represents my target. Well, of course, if you put this trade on and you collect the credit, as long as it's you know, as long as you get to your underline actually gets to your target, you're going to be profitable 100% of the time you're in this trade. Okay. So let's close this, and now let's do and basically what I'm doing is I'm switching around these results and looking at them in a different way. Let's look at a best case return or worst case return ratio here. Okay, I'm going to click on this, and these butterflies are going to give us those same similar results because you saw it was at the peak of those. Let's go down and look a little bit further down here at some of the other results. Let's look at one of the horizontals here. Okay, it's showing me a 32 probability of profit. And again, because we're looking at a target, this is why it's giving us these kinds of results. The worst case return is going to be basically the same as the expected and the best case. And this is because we chose a very specific target. And I'll show you the difference when we do a bell curve here in a second. Okay, so as you can see, here's the horizontal, selling 41 of the August 170s and buying 41 of the September 170s. And you can see here, there's our target. Okay, so it's given us a return based on this solid line right here because we gave it this target. So if that's actually the target, this is going to give you those kind of returns no matter what, as long as you hit this target. Okay, probability of profit again 100% because we set this target up this way. Okay, so it's all a matter of selecting the correct parameters when you're doing TradeFinder and then knowing how to interpret the results. Let's go ahead and look now, and I'm going to clear this. I'm going to go back to my assets. Still going to do SPY again. This time we're going to do a bell curve. Okay, let's just say we want to do something neutral. We have a center price of where it's at right now. Okay, and the volatility of where it's at right now. This is the statistical volatility. Okay, of where it's at right now. Let's double check that. just clicking on a price chart and look at the volatility right now, you can see it looks like historical, or we call it statistical, and the implied volatility are both pretty much dead even right now. It's at 16. Okay, and I'm looking at the bottom here. That's why I dragged this blue line over here, because it's going to tell me what the SB is, the high, low, close for today. Okay, so let's just say in our TradeFinder that we're doing right now, we're just going to look at right at the money and want to do a bell curve. And this is really where the probability of profit taken into account volatility is going to, give you some good results to rank a TradeFinder search on based on probability of profit. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Let's look at the strategies again. And let's select all. It might take a little bit longer on this one to do that. Same goals, same filters. Okay, I just basically changed my target to a bell curve. Okay, I'm going to hit go on this one. Yeah, I got a question about is there a measure of how likely your target is reached? If you set your targets and let me address that in a minute, Paul. There's kind of a way to look at that in the options chain itself, or we also have a probability calculator. A probability calculator is going to give you an idea of your strike being touched, finishing above it or below it. It's a pretty neat feature, but there's also kind of a newer feature in OptionVue, which is the probability of touching. You can do that in the options chain, and basically you can turn this feature on, and it's going to give you the probability that within the expiration of this particular contract, what the probability of that strike ever being touched is going to be. So there's a couple ways to answer that question. More realistically is you'd want to do kind of a bell curve here, and this is going to give you more accurate probability of profits here. And we don't have to go through all the strategies. I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. We can work with the results we have. Actually, maybe we should let it go a little bit longer. I want to make sure I get some butterflies in here and condors. But it is, of course, it's always going to pull. There go the butterflies. It's going to pull the top 50 results here, and we're basing them on probability of profit. So it looks like we got some pretty good results coming up here so far. Probability of profit might be high, but it probably wouldn't be a trade you put on for a return of $9 or best case return $63. So you definitely want to maybe go in and check the parameters that you have set up, or select the strategies that you'd really be doing for this kind of a strategy search. Okay. I'm actually going to stop this one right now so that we can search uninterrupted. Okay. So let's go. So it's giving me a lot of vertical credit spreads here. Let's go ahead and look. These are 93% probability of profits. I'm going to show you why it's giving us such high probability of profits. We'll look at this vertical. We're buying 2 of the 42 puts and selling 4 of the 141 puts. So we'll go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and click here. I'm going to analyze this. Okay. This shaded region is the target. Okay. I'm going to click on the solid line here. Another way to do it is I can just go over here and click on the 815 right here. Okay, and it's pulling up my shaded, my bell curve. The bell curve is the standard deviations. Okay, so basically what it's saying is that probabilities of by August 15th of the underlying falling within this first standard deviation is extremely high. Then it gets it's a little bit lower probability as it go out in time. But this is basically the bell curve that I asked it to look for a trade for me on. Okay. Now, based on this return, you can see here that the return is extremely minimal. This and also another thing to remember in TradeFinder is that if you have commissions and slippage turned on, and let me show you where that is really quick. if I have those features turned on, I'm going to click on my matrix here for the SPY again. If I have these turned on in my model button, I do have slippage at moderate. That means if there's a spread between the bid and the ask, OptionVue is going to take that into consideration, and I'm including commissions as well. So it's going to take those things into consideration when it's looking for trades as well. Just wanted to point that out to you as well. And I highlighted this one. Worst case return is $29. That's if it goes away. The underlying price drops a lot. I'm going to go ahead and analyze this again, and then we're looking at expected return of 2 and 3. So those aren't realistic trades that we'd put on here. Let me do something else here so we get some better results. So I'm going to deselect all and just let's look at some long strangles, butterflies, and condors there. I'm going to go ahead and go on this one now. I got a question. So slippage is not checked. Okay, there's a way to look at that, and these results will stay here. I'm going to go back to the matrix really quick and click on my model button. Slippage is not checked off, and my commissions are included. That's correct in looking at this. So they were not included. That's correct. So they were not active. Let me go back over here to my TradeFinder. This is silver. Okay, TradeFinder results. Okay, now we have some butterflies up here. Still working on my condors now. And it's personal, as far as slippage goes, it's personal preference. When you first get OptionVue, it's automatically set to hit bid ask, which means you're going to get the worst possible fills based on the bid and the ask that's coming into OptionVue. So I've heard a couple of people that like to analyze like that so they can look at the very worst possible scenario, but realistically you're going to work your order a little bit, or at least go for something in between the bid and the ask. So that's why I usually put my slippage to moderate so that it's more realistic. And my search is complete here. Okay, and it's giving me a condor with and we're ranking them based on probability of profit. Okay, expected returns are kind of low. Let me switch to expected returns. And let's take a look at one of these here, August. We'll look at this butterfly. We're going to analyze this one. Okay, here is my bell curve. So it's giving me a probability of just 40%. And what it's doing now, I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down a little bit for you. And what I'm going to do now is I'm dragging, just left-clicking and dragging these underlying prices down here. Okay, so now you can really get an idea of the bell curve, which is these standard deviations right here. This first standard deviation, the darker shade, and the lighter shade is the second standard deviation, either direction. And what it's saying basically is 40% of this highlighted line is profitable, and that's where it's giving my probability of profit. So within this standard deviation, these two standard deviations, it's saying that 40% of this trade is profitable. It's looking at your return. Okay, your expected return is 983. Okay, so it's taking an average of this line being way up here, and this line leveling up down here is where you're going to get that average there. But realistically, probability of profit for this trade, probably not something you would do on this one. And the thing is also, I mean, if you wanted to pick a center price, you could have done that also yourself. But I just basically said whatever it is at the money right now, let's use that as a target. Let's go ahead and close this, and let's take a look at another one. Let's look at a condor. It didn't give me a condor. It gave me a strangle though. Okay, and let's analyze this one. Probability of profit again is really low on this one. Let's analyze this. Okay. So it's giving us a probability of profit about 20% on that line I clicked, but on this expiration line, it's about 20% for all of them for these. Okay. And again, it's looking at the profit zones over here and the profit zones on this side. Okay, and again, it's probably because of the strategies I picked here, going long the strangles. Okay. So as you can see, you can go through here and pick a lot of things out here. Let's just say, you know, for instance, you wanted to do a short naked options on this bell curve that you were looking at here. Okay. And I want to look at the best case return. And we can analyze this one. Okay. So let's say that there was a trade here that you really did like. You could then send it to the matrix. Okay. Let's say I like this trade. I wanted to send it to the matrix. My matrix is going to pop up. And I'm going to go over to, it was a December contract, I believe, and there it is sitting there waiting for you to look at or add some legs to or compare it to some different trades. Okay. So, you know, extremely useful tool. And like I said again, if I went to targets, I went to over here to assets, and I wanted to do a TradeFinder for an entire group, you know, and I gotta look at where I'm at in my quotes display right now. I'm right here, of course. That's why it's only pulling on those two when I did a group. But you can also, I mean, you can set up a group for however you want to. You know, OptionVue is very Excel friendly. So if you have kind of a little watch list, maybe you have a bullish watch list and a bearish watch list or something like that, you can always create a new group that's titled that. You could actually even create a new tab that's called that. So I could insert a tab here, you know, say bullish plays maybe, and do that. Now it's sitting right here. Okay, and then you could actually, if you had a watch list that maybe you had somewhere else, you could always move it over to Excel. Okay, make sure this is highlighted. So copy that row or column in Excel, edit, come into OptionVue and hit paste symbols, and it's going to populate all those symbols in here. Another way that you could populate a little group within a tab here is you could actually go to survey if you wanted to, and I want to just look at the top 20 greatest dollar volume of options traded in stocks. Go, and this is going to pull up. These are all the DVO. That means dollar volume of options traded basically yesterday. So it's looking at the close numbers. So basically, they're probably looking at yesterday's numbers. How many options were traded yesterday, and it's going to rank them. And it says, looks like Pfizer kind of came out the top of the list right now for the stocks. Okay, that's not 299,000. That's like 299 million probably. It's in terms of thousands is what this is. Okay, so basically you're adding, you know, 3 more zeros to these numbers here. That's what it is. So, and then I could basically left click on this one, hold down my shift key, and left click here. You could actually highlight the first one, hold down the control button and select the ones you wanted to, and then hit the insert button. And now I can close this, and there they are, waiting to go. Okay, then what I would do is I'd actually probably hit an insert button here, type in a £1 or whatever. So now I have a group that I just created from that scan. Okay, and then I could go into TradeFinder and select my group. Now, remember, you can't just go ahead and run this and set the targets. You'd actually want to open all these matrices up independently or go to NetView at the top, update asset files, hit the G button, and by hitting go, what I asked it to do is go ahead and go behind the scenes and open up all of these option chains that I just, for the underlines that I just asked. And it did that. It's done. I'm going to hit my targets. I'm going to go here, and I want to do a bell curve for all of them. I want to say the center price is, I just want to do a specific price range. Nope, I want to do a bell curve. I want to say no change, nothing's going to happen. And I want to do something a little bit shorter term here. Let's just do July 25th. Okay, hit OK there. It's looking, it's going through all of those and giving me a price for all of those, which it did. Okay, let's just say I want to look at some long butterflies, and I want to look at some horizontal debit spreads. Goals 3000 filters. Let's base this on best case return, go. And now what it's doing, it's going ahead and it's looking through each of my, you can see it's looking at FXI, it's looking at Google, It's going to be looking at all these things I just pulled up now. Now, market's closed, so I didn't suspend my quotes like I normally would if the market was open because of all the data that's coming in, streaming in. But because the market's closed, it's okay to do this now. Now it's looking at IWM. Okay, so now it's going to JP Morgan, it's going through Pfizer, TLT. Almost done there, and look at the VXX. Interesting on the VXX there. But look at that. Okay, so we have a VXX butterfly that it says is going to give us the best case return right now. Let's go ahead and look and see why. Analyze this. And I like to zoom it out to get a kind of a wider angle of what it's really looking at, because otherwise it's kind of hard to determine what's going on here. So basically, it's looking at long August calls, short August 34 calls, and then long to 40 calls. So, okay. And this is why it's giving us that probability of profit, which it is giving us, which is 40% right here. Let's click on the expiration here. 40% probability of profit, because at this solid line, 40% of it is above the standard deviations. Okay. And it's giving us an awesome return, of course, if we would finish over here. So expected return, this level is so much higher over here, even though you're at a loss over here. That's what's giving you, and it's averaging at every price point what the return would be if it fell with anywhere within this bell curve. Okay, let's close this one. Let's look at a Google horizontal spread. Okay, again, I want to zoom in a little bit here. Pretty much doing the same thing for us. Got a butterfly. And it's not pointed because we're not looking at expiration. Okay? Got to remember, whenever you're doing any other type of analysis in OptionVue, the solid line will represent expiration on that contract. When you're doing TradeFinder, the solid line is actually representing the target finish date, the target end date. July 25th is what I put in. So that's why it's solid, but not going to give you that normal pointed butterfly look. Okay? I know TradeFinder's there's a lot to cover when you're looking at TradeFinder. Let me just show you one more thing before I open up for any questions, and then I'll finish up the presentation here. But one other thing you could do here, I'm going to actually clear this. I'm going to go to my targets, actually, and I'm going to hit my, and we can do Pfizer, that's fine. I'm going to click on a price chart here. Okay, now it's pulling in data. This is my chart on Pfizer. I don't want to look at the volatility right now. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this, but let's just say that you wanted to select a target based on a chart. Okay, so I can go ahead. I'm going to click on this bullseye button here. It's going to pull up a little target window that I can move wherever I want it to. Okay, so let's just say that I have an idea that sometime in August, Pfizer is going to come down a little bit and finish in this range. Okay, now I can go back to TradeFinder here, and if I look at the targets, where that box is right now, it created that target for me. Gave me the date range by how wide the box is, and it gave me a high and low price based on how tall the box I created is. Okay, and then let's just say I have these strategies selected again. My goals, filters, I hit go. Okay, no profitable for what I selected here. That's because I actually am bearish on it right now, so these strategies don't probably apply so much. Let's do some of these and some of these here. Let's hit go on this one. There we go. Because it was a bearish kind of a thing I put on there, so let's look at this first one here. Let's analyze it. Okay, and that's my target. That's the target box that I created on the price chart. Okay, now I can go back to the price chart. There's the box I created. Now I can hit this window here in that trade I just analyzed. Oops, I got to send to the matrix first. I skipped a step. So let me go back to here, and now this position, I want to actually send this to the matrix. Okay, and it's showing part of it here for me. I'm going to analyze it. Okay, and that's what it looks like. Okay, we're 14 to September 27 in the December call, so that's why I didn't see the other one because we're out here. There it is right there. Okay, analyze it again. Let's look at my price chart. There's my target, and this is going to show you your profit zone based on that trade you just put on, that trade that we analyzed and sent to the matrix. Okay, so it's basically showing you that, hey, yeah, the good probability if you're right on your target, this is a good trade because you're going to be profitable with what we were looking at there. And you can go back and look at this one. Another thing you could do is, let's say I wanted to clear this trade. I want to go back to TradeFinder and look at another one. Okay, let's say I wanted to look at this one instead, analyze this one. Okay, and I want to look at the last one I looked at, look at this one, go down to a few lines instead of 5 lines and superimpose the two over each other. So you can compare the two ideas that TradeFinder has given you this way as well. So, you know, TradeFinder is extremely robust. It's very, very important to make sure you have the definitions and your option chains defined. Make sure you have updated asset files, and make sure you're able to, you know, properly interpret the results that it's coming out. And definitely takes some time to get used to it, but it's a very powerful tool and excellent for helping you out with finding some great trade ideas. Yeah. So any other questions out there? I haven't really seen a whole much come through. Oh, I was going to show someone else. Actually, Paul, I'm going to show you what I was talking about as far as those probability things that come out. Since we were looking at Pfizer, we'll just open up a matrix again on Pfizer here. And what I was talking about is a newer feature. We're going to go ahead and right-click on one of my columns here, and I'm going to change it to probability of touch. Okay. When you do that, this new PT button comes up here, and I want to make sure I'm hitting this S button to pull in my standard deviations and my SV, my statistical volatility, where it's at right now. And if I click on this, it's going to run a Monte Carlo-based probability calculator. It's going to give you that within 51 days, there's a 7% chance that this strike is going to get touched. Not finished, but it's actually going to touch this strike sometime within the 51 days. Okay. A lot of people will do some naked selling based on these percentages, set up the wings on their condors based on these percentages, besides just using maybe these standard deviation lines or colorations here. Okay. Another way to find out whether the probability of something is clicking are actually our probability calculator. Okay, let's pull up a probability calculator for Pfizer here. This is the current price, the current volatility. How many days ahead do you want to look? Which is 26 days is July 23rd. You can set up your targets. Let's say my first target is $30. Maybe my second target is $35. I'm going to hit, and basically it did those calculations already for me just by putting those numbers in. So it's going to show you the standard deviations up to the third in either direction. And these probability numbers here, probability of it touching the highest target, finishing above the highest target, not too good. Finishing between the two, touching the lowest, finishing below the lowest. Okay, so this is a neat feature of probability calculator as well. Sure, no problem, Paul. Happy to show you that. But if there's not any other questions, you know, always give us a call here at OptionVue. Happy to do personal walkthroughs with you, and kind of maybe if you have some ideas you want to look at, or with help with TradeFinder or any of the other modules or scanning tools in OptionVue, happy to give you a hand in better understanding and better utilizing all the different modules in OptionVue. So we actually, just kind of a heads up, we do have a new horizontal skew model coming out in the next version. It's pretty impressive. I don't think there's anything else out there that's going to allow you to really see the volatility cones horizontally out in time, and actually be able to manually adjust those up or down based on a future event coming up. So just something else to look for, and that should be out in the next couple weeks here. So, but I'm kind of losing my voice on this one. So thanks you all for coming here, and you know, tune in next week for the next one as well.